Hey guys, welcome to Brian's Man Cave, episode 74. So, I've been wanting to do this video for a little while because I always thought that this was an interesting topic when it came to video games. And what I'm basically doing here is like, what's the difference between, say, a game like this, and we all know who that little critter is, or this, Donkey Kong. Well, so what's the difference between that and a game like, say, this, Dragon Warrior? Now, obviously, you're going to say, well, graphics and the system, and, this is a better game, and yeah. But the real difference is you got these games, which loop. I mean, you get a board, specifically this one, too. You get one board, and it stays on that one board. It never changes, and you're all about getting the high score of, eating all the dots you can. Versus this one, which you have a goal in mind. You start at the beginning, and then you get to the end, and it's over. That's it. You're done. If you want to play again, you start at the beginning again, and it never really changes. It's the same game. You just got to get from point A to point B, and it's done. So I've always considered this, games that loop and games that don't loop. Games that actually have a point to it, or well, not a point, but they actually have an end, a finishing. And they've had games like this. I mean, this isn't like, always have to be Atari versus Intellivision when I'm talking about this, because even on the Atari, I mean, they had a game like this, Pitfall, which is a true classic Atari game, one of the best ones, I believe, for the system. This game, it doesn't loop in a traditional sense, but it does loop, because it never ends. Like when you're running this little guy through the forest, jumping over the swamps of alligators and stuff, you eventually get to a point where you come full circle and end up where you began, and you keep going until the timer runs out. This loops. I mean, sure, you got a lot more levels to run through, so it doesn't feel like it, but it does. It loops. This game will just keep going and going and going. There's no end to it until you die. Like, the timer runs out, it's over. But they followed it up by Pitfall 2, which now actually has a point to it. You actually have to get your guy from the top of the, wherever levels he is, down into the caverns, all the way to the bottom. You have to climb all the way down, you have to climb all the way up, you have to grab all the gold, and you eventually get to this animal, dog, or whatever it is, and you save it, and it's over. That's it. It doesn't loop. It doesn't keep going continuously. And so it was always something that fascinated me. And even on the Intellivision, one of my favorite games was always this one, and I've shown this in a past video. This is Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And this one was one of the first few games that I played that actually had a beginning and an end. It didn't just keep trying to get as many points as possible until the game crashes or whatever, or you run out of time, or you get bored. This one actually has an end goal. Essentially, most of the Nintendo games that we all played, like I just showed Dragon Warrior, Castlevania. I mean, once you get to Dracula, kill him, the game's over. Legends of Zeldas, all of them, all have a point, or all have a finishing point, I should say. And, even something like RoboCop, that you have an objective. You get to the end of the game and it's done. Some of these will have points, so you can still play for points, like Super Mario Brothers. Like, there's an end to it, but, you can try and get the highest points, and you can get creative on, like, I can beat the game in 5 minutes or something like that, right? So you can always challenge yourself. And then some of them, they like Super Mario Brothers 2, which doesn't have points, doesn't have a timer. It's just, can you complete it? And, you can time yourself if you want to. But they're not really designed to be, looping. Versus, on the same system, they have games like, and I've done a video on this, is Popeye. Again, this is an arcade classic. This game looped. It had 3 levels. So, much like Donkey Kong, you would start on level 1, go to level 2, go to level 3, then go back to level 1, go back to level 2, level 3, and it looped. And you just keep playing it. And sometimes what they would do is make the games get harder, more challenging. And obviously in Donkey Kong, it's a very tricky game to, I have Donkey Kong here for the Nintendo as well. it's a very hard game once you've gone through the 3 or 4 levels, depending on which version you're playing. It's obviously going to get harder. The barrels come faster. And if you've ever played the arcade, I mean the real arcade, you know how hard that game is. I mean, it's brutal. I mean, most people can't even get past the first board, let alone the first set of boards. Get to the end levels, the pie level, and then the top level, and then even just to get it to loop back to the first board. It's hard. It's a very hard game. I've played it on the emulator lots of times, and I still I think the furthest I get is maybe the pie level, maybe, and then it's really hard. And but the interesting thing is what do people typically like to play? Do you like these style of games? Because you can play. There's lots of them. Most of them are the older retro style games for sure. It's Space Invaders and stuff like that, where it is continual. It does loop. It just keeps going on and on. Not a lot happens after the first 5 minutes. I mean, you're still doing the same thing. The difficulty increases, but you're not really achieving much more than a score. And I've always enjoyed games like that because they're simple, they're fun, they're quick. You throw them in there. I always felt with some of the Nintendo games, whoever said I'm just gonna have a quick game of Zelda 2. You never say that because you're either in the middle of it and you're getting frustrated because you get stuck somewhere and you got to this point where it's just and you can't do anything else. I mean, what are you going to do? Go backwards? So it's just you get stuck in the middle of a quest. Or even Dragon Warrior. If you ever want to play Dragon Warrior, it's not a game, where did I put it? It's not a game you could just, I just feel like playing some Dragon Warrior. I'm going to throw it in my Nintendo and play a couple minutes of it. Why would you do that? Unless you're in the middle of a campaign, you're in the middle of the game and you want to continue on to try and, further and try and complete it, maybe you'll do that. But in most cases, what I found is, after, say, a few months or a year or whatever, if I pop this back in, I don't remember what I've done previously. I don't know where I am. I don't know what I've done. All the items I got, where I need to go next. It's just complete blank. And then I have to say, okay, forget it. I'll just start a new game. And now I'm right back at the beginning. And, this game for sure, it's much more tedious because it takes quite a while to build up just to get anywhere. Whereas something like Donkey Kong, I could say, I got 20 minutes to kill. I'm going to slap in some Donkey Kong, and I'm going to play Donkey Kong. And that's it. I can play. You start at the beginning and just keep playing. And you play until you get bored. Same goes with Pac-Man, for sure. If you just feel like gobbling some dots. And I bet you there's a lot of people that just prefer that style of game. I look at a lot of the games nowadays, like this guy over here, Super Mario Wii. I think I made it to I don't know. I made it a little bit far, and then I kind of gave up, and I was just it's just getting harder and harder and longer, and the game's just so big, and that's just Mario, right? I don't get into any of those real big games. There's games that take people all this time, and then there's that I've often heard a few videos on YouTube where people are yeah, I've played this game and I spent 4 days trying to complete it. And now I got to the end, I completed it, and then I'm what do I do now? It's all right, put that into the case and put it away. I'll probably never play that again. Which kind of brings me up to that other point of when do you play these games again? Because once you've completed them all, then what? You're okay, I've done it. I'll probably never do it again, or maybe I'll put it away for 10 years, and then I'll do it again. Or I just get rid of it. I don't want to play it anymore. I've completed, say, Dragon Warrior a handful of times. I have to say I want to commit myself to that time. I'm going to want to play it and play it and play it and play it, the same game over and over again. And I've already completed it once, so it's no surprise what happens at the end, which is not really much anyway. Games like Super Mario Brothers, though, I mean, that most of us who can play the game and know all the levels and know the warp zones, we can say, okay, I only need about X amount of time, minutes or whatever, or maybe an hour if you're slower, or you want to take your time on it, or Super Mario 3 or something like that. Yeah, sure, it's less time, but still it is time. And other games like Pitfall, well, not that Pitfall, but this Pitfall. you can just slap it in your system and have some fun, go to work. And yeah, so I always thought it was fascinating. Like, I know there's other types of games out there. There's, you know, the RPGs and the sports games and all that. I don't typically get too much into all the RPG style games. Dragon Warrior and Zelda would be about as far as I go on those ones. Sports, same thing. I look at sports kind of like games that loop. It's, you know, you pop in. I just bought one, actually, reaching over here. I just bought this one because I realized I didn't have it for my collection of Atari stuff. And it's Activision. Activision is cool. And this is a fun little game to just pop in and play a little bit of. It's almost like Pong to me, right? It's just repetitive and it's fun. I play for a couple minutes, I get bored, pop it out, play another game. So that's typically how I like to play my games. But I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to hear what you think about games that loop versus games that don't. Do you prefer to have an end in sight? Do you prefer to like know that you're trying to achieve something much more than just I got a higher score than I did last time? You know, because it's really a difference of style. Like, do you enjoy the repetitiveness of gobbling dots for 4 or 5 hours versus dragging Simon Belmont's butt through a castle to get to Dracula? I mean, there's two different styles of games, two different methods of play. Anyways, yeah, I'd like to hear what you have to say about it, and you know, the types of games that you typically gravitate towards and would prefer to keep playing over the other ones. Hope you liked the video. Hope you subscribe to my channel. Talk to you later.